So, is C# the best programming language? That's what we're going to discuss in this video. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Kay. So, C#, that's the programming language that I specialize in, but it's not the first programming language that I learned, and it's not the programming language that was taught at the bootcamp that I did, Makers Academy. So, my first language was Python, and I learned Ruby at the bootcamp that I did. So, how did I come to this conclusion that C# was the programming language that I wanted to specialize in? Well, I'm going to give you 5 main reasons, and these are the reasons that I kind of weighed up and valued when I was applying for my first junior developer role, and I've had personally no regrets. So, firstly, as a language, C# gives you the perfect balance of difficulty to learning important programmatic concepts. So, for example, important concepts when it comes to building scalable applications are things like understanding abstraction and using interfaces to abstract away dependencies. And easier languages such as Ruby, where it's dynamically typed, you don't have to worry too much about type safety. They don't have these kind of concepts built into the language. So although it's a nice beginner-friendly language, I definitely recommend starting with a language such as Ruby and Python as you start to think more about building scalable applications rather than just learning the basics. Then it is really helpful to start looking at more statically typed languages such as Java and C#, where you can learn these concepts. But again, C# as a language itself is generally not too difficult. It's quite straightforward once you've got the basics down. Secondly is Microsoft. Now, what do I mean by Microsoft? Well, C#, the whole environment is developed by Microsoft. So the IDE, Visual Studio, that's by Microsoft. All of your CI/CD, your source control, that's all on Azure DevOps. You've got your Kanban board. You've got your own kind of like team management system on there. It's all managed by Microsoft. And what's good about that is because it's all under this Microsoft umbrella, it's all kind of very well integrated. So you're not kind of using, GitHub for your source control and then some other platform for your CI/CD like Circle, whatever, and you're using some other language that's just not very well integrated. So obviously the main benefits of that are you don't have to worry too much about compatibility issues, doing a lot of things manually. It's all really well, it all flows together really nicely. Number 3 is support for building a large array of different types of applications. Now, when I was learning C#, it wasn't actually for the purpose of building, what I'm doing right now is building APIs. It was actually because I had an interest in building games using Unity, which uses C# as well as one of the languages. So with C# you can build desktop applications, you can build web applications using ASP.NET Core, you can build mobile applications. It's got that support for Xamarin. You can build games like I mentioned earlier. So Unity is a really nice game engine that uses natively C#. So just by learning C#, you open yourself up to building all sorts of different types of applications, whether it be mobile, desktop, web, games, etc. Now, 4 is a really interesting one. So C# is traditionally a very back-end focused language, but nowadays with Blazor support, so Blazor is kind of a front-end framework which uses C#. And what that essentially means is if you're a C# developer, just by learning a few bits and bobs here and there, you can become a full stack developer, or if you want, for whatever reason, you can become a front-end C# developer. So before, if you wanted to go full stack, you have to learn C# plus a front-end framework like React, JavaScript, whatever. But now, because we have Blazor, it's got kind of similarities to React, where you have like your own kind of reusable components, and it's got its own kind of built-in C# where you can do all of your kind of C# coding along with the HTML and CSS aspect as well. So Blazor support with C# is really great. So you can pretty much do the full stack if you're a C# developer. Now, lastly, and this is a really important one for myself, was employability. Now, before I actually started applying for jobs, I was looking into which kind of languages became redundant or phased out over time. I didn't want to be in a position 10 years down the line where my skills essentially aren't as useful anymore, and I didn't want to go through that process of kind of relearning everything. That's going to kind of hold me back a lot. So C#, I personally don't see it becoming a kind of redundant language in the future, just because it's got all of that Microsoft support and the reasons I mentioned earlier. But also when it came to actually searching for my first job as well, my first junior developer role, I essentially went through the process of looking at online job hunting sites, and then I typed in different languages within a 5 mile radius of myself to see how many jobs there were in that language. So Ruby, there weren't that many at all. Python, there were quite a few. Most of the jobs were in JavaScript, but C# was a very close second place. And on average, I noticed that the C# developer salaries were actually a bit higher than the JavaScript ones, and that's mainly because C# is quite heavily used within the financial services industry, and obviously if you've seen my previous videos, the one on industries, you know that financial services generally does pay quite a bit above the market standard rate as well. So that was kind of another factor that I added into coming up to this ultimate decision of choosing to master C#. So to this very day, I'm still getting spammed by recruiters with C# developer roles. C# again is one language that I don't see kind of getting phased out, and it's definitely one that I highly recommend you learn. If you're not sure about picking a language, then you can go through the process that I've kind of mentioned just now. Look for jobs, see which jobs have which language is most used in jobs near you. But again, I would say you can't go wrong if you decide to go down the .NET Core C# route. Alright guys, so do let me know what you think. Which language do you think are going to be up and coming? Which ones do you think are worth specializing in? But if you like the video, please do like and subscribe to support the content, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya.